Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
We're
ma'am.
on the third day of the high impact journal session, and we've had a very interesting session. We're supposed to have Dr. Hilary, but while we wait for him to come on board, we'll go through. We'll give Dr. Kingsley the opportunity of probably reviewing what we did yesterday. Dr. Hilary, you're welcome. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
While we wait for, yes.
Yeah, I am Dr. Kingsley, not Dr. Hilary yet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yesterday's lecture was all about ways we can make our literature review. I talked on two basic areas in literature review. Either you have a literature review as a standalone paper, or we have a literature review as in our thesis or a research paper we want to publish. And yesterday, we asked some students to send in their work. I received four from 4 students, though they came very late. I received one from Ajayo John Ojo. I received another one sorry if I didn't call your name well, Talabi Adetoyi Abiodu. I received another one from, trying to go through their names. So the 4 I received, I was able to review one very well because others were a little bit, I have too much work to do. I read through all of them, but to make my comment on them were a bit difficult because there were no cohesion in many of them. But I was really impressed with the work of the one of John Ojo, of which I have made my comment and I have shared my comment with him. I don't know if I can share my screen so that we all see what I have done.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please, so that we can learn from.
Share my screen and let's see what we did. I don't know if we are seeing my screen. I don't know
we
if
can
you are
see
seeing
it.
Okay,
yes,
you can see it.
We
Yes,
can see it.
actually, you see the work is actually a sample literature review on the topic systematic analysis of assembly techniques in instruction detection system. He actually did the literature review. He followed all the steps that were given that we taught yesterday, and I actually want to praise him. I made my comment anyway. I said he didn't tell me the kind of literature review, but when I read through, I discovered literature review. Can some of us mute ourselves, except the director and the moderator, so that we can reduce background noise? So that the moderator and the director can only leave their own, others can make me mute themselves so that we can get what we are saying. So I made some comments and they actually called me to appreciate the comment. I told him I knew this work from what I've read. They are actually part of his thesis. And I said the work is moderately okay. But before I make my comments, I didn't check for plagiarism, which is an essential aspect of the work too. And I found some grammatical or semiotic error, which I know it will be easy to put in place. And there are some words he was actually using. There are some direct words or what I would call authoritative words. Everybody will learn from this. He said, however, many of the related studies created significant number of false positives and have low detection rate. My question was that many, without citing it, the statement was too authoritative. When we are writing, there are some words we are careful about so that you don't put yourself into problem. I told him quietly that I would prefer the word some of the related study. It will be born better than you say many of the related study. If we want to change that word many, we can replace it with some of the related study, because that word many talked about something. And he uses abbreviation, acronym. You first of all use abbreviation, you go inside your work, you now meet the definition of abbreviation. When you are using abbreviation in a work, you try to use it first, then you define your abbreviation. And when you are defining your abbreviation, one thing I observe, it is not the words that will go into the bracket. It is the abbreviations that will go into the bracket. Then when you use it once, you make sure you follow it sequentially. Not some place you use the abbreviation, somewhere you define the tense. I actually looked at that. Then I went further. I made about 10 comments. I went further to the 5th comment now. Let's look at the other 5th comment I made. Let me go because I'm on the 4th. Let me move this so that I can see the comment from this side. The 5th comment, I talked about, okay, he also used a very another authoritative statement. He said a review work on IDS, my screen is blocking some of the state, on IDS general form from the year 2018 to 2021 will be presented in this seminar. Though he used seminar, I know what he was referring to in this work, but that was not my point there. My point was that, are you very sure it is 2028 to 2001? Because
Hello, Dr. Kingsley. Can you still hear him? I can't hear him anymore.
I saw you making reference to the literature I'm reviewing from 2018 to 2020 is too direct. The best way you would have done this, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, maybe there was
Yes.
the sheet.
But please, I just wanted to know. Hello, I just wanted to know, Dr. Hillary is on board. So when you're done, we'll take him. Thank you. Continue, Dr. Kingsley. Hello. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Doc. If you can go over your last few statements, the last statements, because we couldn't hear you at some point.
Hello, Dr. Kingsley. Do we still have you? Okay. I just want to make this comment so that other students can also follow the suit.
Yes.
Okay. What I said, telling us that he wants to do a review work. Yes. Can I continue?
Continue, sir.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yes,
please.
Yes, the 5th comment I observed in his work was that he made an emphatic statement that he is going to conduct a review for work that has been done on IDS between 2018 to 2021. Very fine. But my question was that I asked him, are you sure? Because that statement was too emphatic. A more better statement would have been, because as I read further in the work, I discovered that there were some for 2013. On its own, it's contradicting a statement he has made himself. That's why I think the statement is too direct. Why not be indirect in such statement? I want to do a review of some recent work. That was what I commented there. Then if you look the 6th comment I made, the 6th comment, I'm trying to scroll through my screen. He used, that's why I said, you see, he now say Ismaili et al. 2013. And I told him, justify this reference to comment 4. That's where I was making my comment to link to. Then he also, when he was doing his referencing, he says C et al. Why the initials? When you are writing an author name inside your work, you don't put the initials. You just go to the first name. That is, all the references were okay apart from this. If you are using this kind of APA form or this Chicago form of referencing, which I know we are going to actually look at references in our own. And when you are using a mathematical comment term, when you are using a mathematical symbol like percentage, you write the symbol. You don't put 85.2%. You put the symbol of percentage because it's a unique symbol. That word percentage will go off. He did all those things in his work. It's better we use the symbol for percentage than spelling percentage because everything we're in figure. Then you see this definition now. He has defined, he has used an acronym to represent assembly machine learning system. He is using them alternatively. The abbreviation, you decide to write it as you start your work, the abbreviation should flow down, harmonize its abbreviations. And you look at this table, table trying to surmise. If you are making a statement that will relate to that table. Hello?
No. It was hazy, the audio, but it's fine.
Okay. No. What I said was that if you have a table or figure in your work, you must try to find a place inside your work to make a statement that will tie that table. Don't just bring a table. We are seeing table. We have not read about the table anywhere in your work. You just say, okay, table 1.0. We'll try in table 1.0. We summarize related literature. No statement in the work that is tying this table to your work. So when you are writing a paper, you must make reference, either figure, graph, anything. Graph 1.2, figure 1.2. There must be a statement, either is preferably before the table, but you can put it after the table, no matter, but there should be a statement that just like, don't just bring a table, you didn't just tell us anything about the table is just there, and you title the table. That was my other question there. And I discovered that in the analysis he did on the table, very fine table, but he used the word drawback. To me, I feel drawback is not that too polite. Somebody would have done a good work. You say the person has a drawback in his work. Why not use the word limitations? Because there should be a limit on what somebody will do. So I now said I will beg him to change that word drawback to limitations. And some statement he was making to actually talk about the drawback or limitation in this work, they were statements that I feel the statement should be more concise and they should not be too direct. You play around, it's like political statement. This guy, you try to, but I feel you want to do this. Don't just condemn the person's work. You use style to actually want to bring that because you want to justify your work. Doing your work, that does not mean you condemn what somebody has done. Also, check the author's name. When you are writing the author's name, he did very well in other references. But if you check this author name, it will just put the 3 authors. No. You put one of the author, you already knew how to do citation, just follow the same suit in that table, and I think this work is good. And I also told him that I didn't see the references he was making reference to. I know it's a part of the work. Apart from this work is very fine. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kingsley.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said
thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley, for that correction. I'm sure we've all, apart from the researcher that has submitted this, we've all taken note of this correction because it would be of immense benefit to us. Now we have our guest, the main speaker, the main presenter for today, who is Engineer Dr. Hilary. Please, host, can you enable me to share so that we'll read his, because many people here don't know who he is, please.
That will bring. All
right. Okay, fine. So, Engineer Dr. Hilary Onwuama is currently an associate professor of civil engineering and the deputy director, intensive and part-time studies, Delta State University, Abraka, Nigeria. He was head of Department of Civil Engineering, DELSU, from 2017 to 2020. He attained the enviable position of associate professor in October 2019 at the age of 37, making him about the youngest associate professor in any Nigerian public university. He earlier lectured in Landmark University, Omuaran, Kwara State, and has over 50 scientific articles with more than 30 in Scopus and Clarivate Analytics index journals. So we welcome Engineer Dr. Hilary Ijoma Onwuama. Please pardon me if I've not pronounced your surname, but we welcome you. And Dr. Hilary had actually presented on the first day. He went through the rubrics of introduction, writing, having a good topic forming a good title for your research and the introduction. So today it's going to be taking us on methodology, results, and anyway, so welcome, Dr. Hilary, since we've spent time. So I don't know whether you can do this in 30 minutes, your session, because we've taken already like 20 minutes into the time. So you're welcome.
I'll try. Thank you so much. I appreciate that the way you read that biography. I was thinking that I wasn't the person you were talking about. So let me thank you very seriously. Am I loud and clear, the speaker?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
So,
but you could put it on slideshow, please. So
yes, it's already there. I'm sharing it.
No, I think it's still not on slideshow. Okay, go ahead so that we don't.
Yes, I'm sharing the screen already.
No, slide so that we can see everything.
Okay,
Slide
okay,
show.
on slideshow.
F5. Or you just click on.
Okay. Is that okay now?
Yes, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this evening I've been asked to look at methodology, which we also call materials and method. And then I've also been asked to look at result and discussion. I will try as much as possible to be very fast about it. Now, as we all know, excuse me, let me try to reduce the screen. Okay, so one critical aspect of publishing research is describing the method used in enough detail that the experiments can be reproduced by others. Because when we are talking about materials and method, we are looking at the reproducibility. Hello?
Okay, please continue, please. You can unmute. Dr. Hilary, just unmute and start. Hello.
All right, can I go on?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there is no much time, so I just have to go straight to what I have to present. So I said that one critical aspect of publishing research is describing the method used in enough detail so that the experiment can be reproduced by others. So when we're talking about methodology, we're looking at the process or the method that was adopted to do a particular work in such a manner that somebody elsewhere could also do that same experiment, get the same kind of result that we have. So what editors and reviewers actually look out for at the methodology section is the reproducibility of the data that was used for that particular research, and whether the method has followed standard processes that have been established by other previous researchers in that field. And so I would say that some manuscripts are rejected because there is insufficient detail in the method section, and so they get rejected. Sometimes you discover that you send a manuscript that you have written very well, everything is in order, and then it gets rejected. And you'll be wondering, how come this manuscript is rejected? So if you look at the methodology, you discover that you may have either cooked to the methodology or adopted a methodology that is not well known in that field. And so the editors will begin to doubt the quality of data produced, and then they could reject that particular one. Now, in an editorial for the American journal, one American journal, James Provenzale says that one of the common reasons for rejection of a manuscript is that the reviewers cannot fully understand how the study was conducted. Personally, I've rejected some manuscripts that ordinarily would have survived peer review, but because I really could not understand, and they were in my field, how the study was conducted, I just recommended that this paper should be rejected. And at the same time, when they send other reviewers report, I also discovered that they would have suggested the same thing for the same reason. And so that makes us to understand that the materials and method section is a very important section that we cannot just play with. And so this evening, I will be giving out some of the ways to go about this thing, especially for manuscript publication. Okay. Now, what are the most important things to include, and how can you be sure that you are being concise and sufficiently thorough? That's the question. Now, I want to give us 7 tips for writing good materials and method section, which can lead to reproducibility of your results and credibility in the eyes of reviewers and readers. Though the list is inexhaustive, so always remember to check the instructions for authors whenever you want to send a particular manuscript to a particular journal. Let's look at the 7 tips now, since I don't have much time on my side. Number 1, they say begin writing the materials and method while you are performing your experiment. Some of us would wait till the end of the experiment before we begin to articulate our materials and method. And I tell you, if you do this, you can forget some very key things about the materials and method that you will not be able to insert into the manuscript. And at the end of the day, they would become the problem. So if you're analyzing, like the example I've been using before, permit me to use as an example, you are looking at the water quality status, drinking water quality status in Abuja, and then you are sampling some boreholes. Now, as you are going about the analysis, taking the samples, filling the bottles with water, okay, transporting them in an iced, under iced condition to a lab, and then trying to stop the growth of microorganisms in some through the application of some droplets of HNO3 acid, you would have to be writing all of these down so that at the end, when you are writing up, you can fall back to all of those points that you have made and then elaborate it. So writing during the research project will prevent you from forgetting important detail and save you time when you begin writing the full manuscript. You can also ask co-authors who perform specific experiments to write the corresponding parts of the method section. Now, the second point is start with general information that applies to the entire manuscript and then move to specific details. You begin with general information as it applies to the entire manuscript and then move to specific experiment detail. Example of general information that you could begin with are characteristics of the study population. Now, I am carrying out a study on the water quality status of drinking water quality status of Abuja. I should be able to give a characteristic of the population. How many people on the average live in Abuja? Okay, are they more male than females? Okay, and then you begin to give all that relevant information, for instance, the geological information, so that people can know whether the aquifer in that place is water bearing or non-water bearing. So you begin to give the general information, general characteristics of the area. If you are studying northwestern Nigeria, you should be able to tell us, okay, whether it is in the rainforest bed or non-rainforest bed, and all of those information. These are the general ones. Now you talk about sources, for instance, so you are working on strains of bacteria. You can talk about sources and genotypes of the bacterial strains. You can also give description of samples and sampling sites. Okay, you describe the samples, the size of bottle that you used, and then that you rinse the bottle before usage. Maybe you rinsed it 3 times. You allow the water to rush fast or something of that nature. You cocked it. You now put it in a container that is cold, and then you took it to the lab and all of those things. So you describe the samples and then the general sampling side. You could say that the sampling took place, that random sampling was utilized in locating the boreholes, you understand me, from which water was collected, and all of those, depending on how the experiment is. So you begin from general information and then you narrow it down. Then you could share more details about your experiment also. Okay, as you proceed, if it is a co-authored paper, having written it, it is good you discuss your methodology with other co-authors who may have also been working in that field, and then they could have some insight into what should be in there and what shouldn't be there. Now, match the order in which the methods are described to the order of the results that are generated using these methods. Also be sure that each method you use is described, even if it is just a quick sentence. For instance, Tosi assays were performed as described. You see, one thing we must know about methodology is that you cannot tell us about a method under your methodology without a reference, without a citation. For instance, if you say that 20 boreholes among 200 boreholes were sampled, you must tell us who did that kind of work and then use that kind of methodology. The work has been published, that you are deriving your information from. You cannot just say that you sample 20 boreholes. Why 20 boreholes? How did you arrive at it? Why not 50 boreholes? Why not 100 boreholes? Why not even 5? So you must be able to relate it to cite a reference. Because as a matter of fact, one of the things that don't come from the blues in a research or in a study is the methodology. The methodology must follow a particular pattern. And if there is adjustment in the methodology, you must tell us what exists and then what you are adding to it. So, thousand answers were performed as described. You put the reference in case you don't want to go into details, because for a manuscript, it has to be very brief. So the only way you can make it as brief as possible is to talk a little about that method and cite a reference, so that those who are interested can now go look for that reference material and get the details. This practice is helpful for transparency as well as reproducibility. We must be able to know, okay, that your pH, for you to look at the pH of the water, that you cited pH probes into the water and then you took your reading. You should be able to tell us which work has done this kind of thing that is informing what you are now doing. So that at the end of the day, your work can be trusted. So at the end of the day, you can convince the reviewers and the editors that indeed you did this work. Because the problem is that a lot of false data, okay, are all over the place. And so editors and reviewers are growingly becoming very skeptical about the kind of data, because some people fabricate data. And that's why sometimes you see some manuscripts are being retracted. Most manuscripts that are retracted on the basis of supply of wrong information, on the basis of falsified data. And so you have to give a reference or give a citation on how you came about that particular method. So if you sample 20 boreholes and Abuja has 1,000 population, you could cite Okonkwo and Okafor, who studied drinking water quality in Port Harcourt. And then maybe Port Harcourt has a similar population with Abuja. Port Harcourt may have had a population of 2,000, okay? And then they use 40 samples. So, and the work has been published. So now that Abuja has a population of 1,000, you can say that that is the reason why you are using 20, because 40 was used for 2,000 people. And then it will begin to make a whole lot of sense. Now, always include citation for your procedures that have been described previously. Like I said, if you made any modification, be sure to list them. But you cannot start with your modification. You must tell us how you have done it in line with what is well known. And then before you begin to talk about the modifications you are bringing on board, if there is any. Then describe statistical tests as fully as possible. So if you are using the student t-test, you are using the chi-square, you are using ANOVA and all of that stuff, you should be able to briefly describe it and also cite any work that has used a similar method for this kind of study. You don't just put there and then tell us that you are using student t-test. Why student t-test? We should know that you should tell us why the kind of data collected, okay, are more suitable for interpretation by student t-test. You should be able to tell us. You should be able, if you are using ANOVA, you should be able to tell us whether it is one-way analysis of variance, two-way analysis of variance with replication or without replication. We should also know the significant level. Is it 5% significant level or 1% significant level? All these are very important so that the credibility of the work can be well determined. Now, avoid discussing the pros and the cons of certain methods or results of any kind. Save evaluation for different methods for the discussion section. Okay, do not tell us the advantages of that method you are using or the disadvantage. That can be seen in the result and discussion section. Okay, just cite the reference, adopt the method, and use the method. And then in the result and discussion section, you can now begin to discuss. Now, to save space, be concise, yet thorough, while listing the equipment you used. Every equipment used must be listed. And there's one mistake that we easily make, and I must emphasize it here and explain it very well to us, that sometimes when we are doing this thing, you just list equipment. You talk about your pH strobe, you talk about your turbidity meter, and every apparatus that you use for the experiment without telling us the model number, without telling us the manufacturer and the country of origin. There is no reputable journal that will accept such manuscript because it will look as if you fabricated your information. So the way to go about it is that you mention the equipment, and then you mention the model number, you mention the manufacturer and the country of origin. Now, if there are so many equipment that came from one particular company, in order to save space, you can list all of those equipment and then put the company to show that all of these 7 items were purchased from this very particular company. So please, more importantly, I want to emphasize this number 7, because we always make mistake about it. You do not, and I say it again, mention any equipment that you used without giving us the model number, because these are used to check the quality of data. These are used to determine the reproducibility. Because if you use a particular, in case that's the same company, and then run the experiment also to validate what you have done. So this is very, very important. Before you finish your manuscript, ask yourself the following questions about your materials and methods section to ensure that you have included all important information. Number 1, is there sufficient detail so that the experiment can be reproduced? So having written it, you need to ask yourself these questions. Have I put down sufficient detail such that anybody anywhere in this world can reproduce, can do exactly what I have done and get similar results? So you check. The next thing, is there excess information that could be removed without affecting the interpretation of the result? Because remember that you are limited by space. You are limited by number of words. So having written it, you need to preview it. And while previewing and reviewing it yourself, you ask if there are some information you have put in there that are redundant, so that you remove them in order to make it more precise and then straight to the point. Then are all the appropriate controls mentioned? Because you do not do experiment without, most experiments, you can't do them without control. And so you must mention these controls and how you manage these controls in the methods section. And the next thing is, are all appropriate citations included? So you look at it, you use a pH stroke to look at the pH meter. Cite who has used it. You determine the BOD5, okay, after 5 days. Cite a reference. So you now check your work and say, are all appropriate citations included? And then the next thing becomes, is the source of each reagent listed? Because when you are using reagents, and that's one mistake we always make, you must tell us where you bought it from. The store and the country. So if you bought the reagent from the main market in Onitsha, you should tell us that you bought this reagent from main market Onitsha, Anambra State, Nigeria, so that somebody can still go to that store, if the store is still functional, buy that reagent, or find out if whether they sell those reagents in that particular store. The scientific community is working very hard to eliminate false data. And so that's why every editor is so particular about materials and methods. So we must pay attention to it so that our good manuscripts are not rejected because of faulty materials and methods. Now, in conclusion of this part, before I go into the next part, I say that writing the materials and methods can be tedious, but a well-written section can enhance your chances of publication and strengthen your conclusion. So before I enter into the next one, I want to get a recap of what we have just done. That immediately after your introduction, many a time in every manuscript, the next thing is materials and method. And the materials and method, we are looking at the methodology, how you did this work. And I'm telling you this night that you do not manufacture methodology. The methodologies don't come from the blues. You must have done an exhaustive review of literature. And then you will find out how competent and other professionals who have published good quality work, how they did the work. And then you do the work. As a matter of fact, there is nothing that is new under the surface of the earth. What we're looking at is a margin of novelty, that there are some elements of newness in the work, not that it's entirely new. So because it's not entirely new, you must stand on the shoulders of those who have gone ahead of you by looking at their methods and trying to adopt their methods while citing them. We also say that in this, you have your sampling methods, you have your number of samples, you have population information, demographic information, and all of those equipment used, how the equipment was used, sampling time. You understand me? Why you decided to sample in the day and not at night, you must be able to tell us. Why you decided to interview only ladies, more of ladies than men, you must tell us. So these are the things that form the materials and methods section, okay? And it is usually less than a page for a manuscript by using 12 font, okay, 2.0 spacing, usually less than a page. So that when the paper is published, it will be like half a page, or even less in the published manuscript, having been compressed. So with this, I want to stop the share so that I can go into the next slide, and then we will be able to take our questions. So the next one is the result, and then the discussion section. So can we see this? Can we see the slide?
Yes, please continue.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, we can see it, sir.
All right, thank you. So now we move into okay, thank you. We move into guide to writing the result and discussion sections of a scientific article. Having looked at the materials and method, the next thing is how do you present your results, and how do you discuss what you have obtained? Excuse me. Okay, so a good research paper has both qualities of good studies and good writing. In addition, a research paper must be clear, short, and effective when presenting the information in an organized structure with a logical manner. The results section is a section containing a description about the main findings of a research, whereas the discussion section interprets the result for readers and provide the significance of the finding. So we must understand what the result section contains and what the discussion section contains. But many a time, they are fused together in many journals. So it is called results and discussion section. So, and what we do here is that when it is fused together, you present the result and you discuss immediately. But if it is not fused together, you list your results briefly and then move to the discussion section to discuss it. So the difference between the result section and discussion section is that in the discussion section, you tend to interpret the result for readers, and then you provide the significance or implication of the study. So if I've looked at the water quality of Abuja, and I discover that the pH is 5, which is less than 7, I should be able to discuss it in line with WHO standard, in line with NAFDAC standard, that the pH of 5, according to Okonkwo and Okafor publication, is acidic, and that Okore and Adafo have been able to prove that when you drink acidic water for about 6 months, you could have ill health problem and all of those. And so I've given the significance in terms of health problem. I've also been able to discover that pH of 5. The pH of 5 is acidic and it falls below the standard of WHO and NAFDAC, which suggests that the pH should be between the borders of 7. And so you don't just dump results. Sometimes what we do is that we have gotten very fantastic results. We dump this result without proper discussion, without putting them into perspective, without discussing it in light with relevant literature, without juxtaposing it, without comparing it, without contrasting it with what exists. And so in the discussion session, you contrast, you compare, and then you give the implication of what you have gotten. Unless you do this, no high impact journal will take you serious. Now, introduction countdown. This section should not repeat the results section. So the discussion, during the discussion, you do not repeat the result. That is for papers that have them as distinct section, result and discussion. But for many a time, like I said, for many journals rather, these two are combined together. Some of the common reasons the result and discussion sections might cause reviewers to reject a manuscript are: 1, confusing tables and figures. Your table, the rows are not well labeled. The columns are not well labeled. They are so confusing. The results are neither ascending nor descending. And the normal kind of result for that experiment you have done is either it's ascending or it is descending. The result is not following any pattern. The figures are not smooth, are not well drawn. You have juxtaposed it. X-axis has become Y-axis. Y-axis has become X-axis. And all of those, they are not even clear. They are not properly labeled even. So, and then you do not know how to even label your tables and your figures. Now, inconsistent or inaccurate data. They have looked at the data. There is no, it is difficult to have pH 1. You are testing water quality in boreholes and you are getting pH of 1. How? Are you testing raw acid? So these are the issues. And somebody will say, my paper was rejected. When you are getting a pH of 1 or pH of 14, pH of 14, are you testing pure alkaline or pure base? So these are some of these issues. When we see this, we know that you have fabricated this data. We know that you have adjusted it. We know that you have done something that is corrupt. And so the paper gets rejected. So inconsistent or inaccurate data is one of the reasons why papers get rejected at the level of result and discussion section. Now, potential variables that are not reported. Now you are working on water quality and you are telling about physiochemical parameters, and we don't find information about the total suspended solid. We don't find any information about the pH. We don't find any information about the temperature. We don't get any information about the odor, whether the water has odor or not. We don't get any information about whether it has taste or not. And these are the physical parameters. Then you are talking about chemical parameters. You did not determine the heavy metals. The lead was not determined. Chromium was not determined. Okay. And all of those. Mercury was not determined. And then you expect somebody to take this in serious when relevant, pertinent parameters have either were not tested or were not reported. Now, overinterpretation or underinterpretation of results. Some persons are good at overblowing things up without managing it in line with literature. Okay, you have gotten a pH of 5, which is acidic. You should be able to report that this pH is 5, this pH is acidic, is less than the required pH by WHO and by so research. Hence, you understand me, there is need for the water to be treated with lime in order to raise the pH to within the boundaries of 7, so that this water can be taken and then the people will be healthy after taking the water. That is the normal interpretation. But when you now begin to overblow it, that because the water, the pH is 5, that this will burn, if you drink it, your intestine will burn completely. How? Where did you see it? That when you drink water pH 5, your intestine gets burnt. And then some people now begin to interpret that it will even affect your hand and your leg. How can the water that you have now taken begin to affect your hand and your leg? These are overinterpretations. Underinterpretation is that you are unable to tell us with the significance of pH of 5. That is acidic, that is not good for drinking, that there is need for treatment. So we must avoid overinterpretation and underinterpretation. Now, to avoid this problem, you can use an organized structure, such as outlines, points, or subheading, to write the result and discussion section. So when you go into result and discussion section, you begin to have, maybe that is your 3.0, your 3 point rather is result and discussion section. You can have 3.1 physiochemical parameters. So under it now, you present all the physiochemical results, and then you discuss the physiochemical result. 3.2 can be biological parameters. So under it, you present all your tables for biological parameters, all your results, all your chart for biological parameters, and then you discuss under it. 3.3 can be correlation of physiochemical parameters, which is, you are not going into the statistical aspect of the work, and then you discuss it there. So you can organize it in such a way that there is no confusion. Now for the result, figures and tables must be clear so that readers can understand the message. Let your results be very clear. Let your figures be clear. Let your tables be clear. When these are clear, readers will be able to understand it. In the discussion session, outline your thoughts to defend your research and to emphasize the significance of your research. You have to outline it. If you don't outline it, it will be haphazard. And once it is haphazard, nobody has that time to help you to begin to organize your manuscript. It is not part of our review, part of the reviewer's assignment. And so the reviewer will just suggest that the work be rejected. That's if it's not rejected from the editor's desk. So you must organize it so that the significance of the study can be known. Use good writing, clear argumentations, and logical explanation in this session to support your conclusion. So as you are giving the implication that the pH of 5 is acidic, it is fall short of the standard of WHO, and then drinking it can cause nervous problem, you can now begin to say that for this water to be used for drinking purposes, there is need for it to be treated with lime. So you see that I have made the argument and I've taken it to a logical conclusion by even making a recommendation in the course of discussing it, mild recommendation, that when treated, there is need for this water to be treated with lime. Now, in this presentation...
Sorry to interject.
Okay.
Sorry to interject. We have 5 minutes to go, but I think we can extend it a bit. But I mean, but I'm sure you'll be able to. Thank you. Very interesting.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you. So can I go on? Am I permitted? Let's talk. So
yes, please. Yes, please. I said
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Permission granted.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in this presentation, I provide tips and direction to construct a succinct and deeply informative result and discussion. Because the result and discussion must be succinct, it must be persuasive, it must be correct, and it must be logical. So we have all such provided in this particular presentation. Let me move to the next slide so that I do the presentation of the rest one. And I assure you in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I would have been done. So just bear with me a little. I'm trying to move to the next slide. The thing is hanging. Just hold on a little. Okay. What?
Okay, we're still on the same slide.
Yes, it's hanging. I'm trying to.
Okay. Does any
Yes.
other person? I don't really have your presentation. I would have shared.
It's hanging. Please, can I?
Okay.
Please let me have my phone. It's hanging. Pardon?
Use space bar to move it. Just press space bar. It should move.
Doesn't move.
Maybe it's so you want to continue with your own.
Yes, I'll continue. Another person can project. I've sent it to Dr. Bani. Let him project.
Dr. Bani can help out. Dr. Bani can help out.
Dr. Bani here, are you there? Please, can you help us share your, so you can stop sharing. Okay, now you can't even, you're not able to stop yourself.
I can stop.
Okay.
Maybe I could repeat it. Let me see if it is moving now.
Okay, yes. At least it's responding now.
Yeah, it's responding now, so I
Yes.
can run it. I
Yes.
can run it from here.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, you stop sharing now.
Yeah, that was the wrong slide.
Okay.
Okay. So it's moving now.
Yes.
I hope I'm the right. Okay. Let me try to know where I stopped. Please, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. So how to organize the result section now? Please, I'm very sorry for that little technical hitch. How to organize the result section? Since your results follow your method section, you'll provide information about what you found from the method you use, such as your research data. So in the result discussion section, it is only what you have gotten from your method that you discuss with us. You cannot be talking about physicochemical parameters or water in Abuja, and then you're presenting a result about data, water quality data in Lagos. That shows that you have copied from somebody's work. You can compare your result with that of Lagos, but that of Lagos cannot be as your table. If you present as a table, you must show that it was adapted from a particular research, and then you are only using it for the purpose of discussion. Now, you may also include information about the measurement of your data, variables, treatment, and statistical analysis. To start, organize your research data based on how important those are in relation to your research question. So when you're organizing your result, you organize it according to order of importance, so that you don't start with very trivial things and then end up with very serious things, and the paper has already been rejected. So those serious ones that you think that is where your novelty strength lies, you begin from there and then go downwards. Now, still on how to organize your result section, include your least important data as supplementary materials or supplemental materials when submitting to the journal. So if there are too many things and you don't want to present that, you can have a table that is 40 columns by 40 rows, too wide. When you put it in the work, it will disturb the reading of the work. You take it to supplementary material. That's why for every reputable journal, they have a portion where you can upload your supplementary materials. You have a figure that is too large to be shown in that manuscript, you can take it to supplementary material. So do not present information that are not too necessary or not too direct for discussion in the result and discussion section. You can take them to the supplementary. The next step is to prioritize your research data based on importance, focusing heavily on the information that directly relates to your research question using the subheading. You say prioritize your research data, like I said before, based on importance. Start with the very important ones, and then you move down. Now we have the organization of the subheading, which is subheading organization information below for the result section, usually mirrors the method section. The same way you did in your method section when you now say that 3.1 sampling, 3.1 sampling, 3.2 a collection of water, 3 point whatever. That's the same way you do in your result and discussion. Let's assume your result and discussion is 4 points. Then you can now begin to say 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and what have you. It must also be in chronological order. So after 4.1 comes 4.2, after 4.2 before 4.3. Now, subheadings within your result section are primarily going to detail major findings within each component experiment. So in the subheading, it is telling us if it is about physiochemical parameter, it should dwell on physiochemical parameter and finish it up before you move to the next one. And the first paragraph of your result section should be dedicated to your major finding, just like I've also said, finding that answer the overall research question and that lead to your conclusion. The very first paragraph. So as you enter that session, let's assume 4.2, biological parameters. The first paragraph should start with the most important finding on your biological parameters as you determine in your methodology section, so that you draw the attention of the editors and the reviewer to the marginal novelty you have been able to obtain in the work before you now begin to discuss other minor things in that particular subsection. Now, subheading organization countdown. In the book, Writing in the Biological Sciences, author Angelica Hoffman recommends us to structure our result subsection paragraph as follows: experimental purpose, approach, result, interpretation. So when you are presenting one experimental purpose, what you had in mind, why you were doing that for the biological parameter, that the biological parameters were determined in order to look for the presence, to check for the presence of pathogenic organism in the water. Then the approach now, then the result, then the interpretation. Each subheading may contain a combination of text to explain about the research data. However, we use figures to display the research data and to show trends or relationships. For example, using graphs or gel pictures. So if it is a laboratory work, even when it's just a laboratory work, I wonder why somebody should write a full manuscript without any figure at all, without any graph at all. Because I told us the last time, every study is about the relationship of one thing on the other. And so you should be able to put your results in the form of figures and then the form of tables. And then remember that figures are labeled beneath the figure. And every figure is a proper noun whenever it's appearing in the text, whether in the beginning, in the middle, or in the ending. Sometimes we do not know. So you see some people write figure 2.1 and the F is a small letter because it's appearing in the middle of the work. Wherever the figure carrying a number appears in the work, it is a proper noun. So figure 2.1, F, capital letter. Figure 3.1, F, capital letter. And remember that we don't use 2.1 and 3.1 in manuscript. We only use that for thesis. When it comes to manuscript, we number straight, serially. So figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, figure 4, figure 5, figure 6. These must have the F in capital letter and labeled beneath the figure. Then the tables are labeled above the table. And then the T's, wherever they appear in the work, must be in capital letter because they are proper now. So you have table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, table 6, and what have you. And many journals frown at manuscript having more than 6 figures and more than 6 tables. So you try as much as possible to manage your figures so that it will be within the boundary of 6 figures and the boundary of 6 tables. Any other thing outside this can go to your supplementary. But please remember, you do not bring up a figure without first mentioning it. That's another taboo people commit in manuscript writing. If I want to show figure 1, before the figure 1 is shown, I must make a sentence some sentences away, maybe 2 sentences away from the figure, or 3 sentences away from the figure, that will let the reviewer and the editor expect a figure. We let them know that the figure is coming. So I can say figure 1 shows the pH of water quality in Abuja before it is shown. Because if the figure is shown without any mention, that shows immaturity in scientific writing. That shows that this person has not been schooled at all about scientific writing. And so the figures must be mentioned before they are shown. Tables must be mentioned before they are shown. Please let us know this. Very, very important. I've reviewed many manuscripts and very senior academics make this mistake, and I wouldn't want us to continue this kind of mistake after this class. Now, data or results. Sometimes we get confused about how to differentiate between data and results. Data are information that you collected from your research, whereas results are the text presenting the meaning of your research data. So the raw data you collected from the field, the raw information you collected from the field are your data. For instance, the pH, we have 10 samples. In sample 1, I got pH 5.1, sample 2, 6.2, sample 3, 7.1, sample 4, 4.9. These are data. Then when I now begin to use tests to present these, that is what we call result. Okay? So one mistake that some authors often make is to use text to direct the reader to find specific table or figure without further explanation. Whenever tables are shown, whenever figures are shown, the figures must be well explained, well discussed. The tables must be well discussed. Vis-a-vis what have been obtained by previous researches. These can confuse readers when they interpret the meaning of the data completely different from what the authors had in mind. Because when you leave your table and your figures in the manuscript without interpretation, without discussion, then the reviewer may begin to interpret it how he or she feels. And remember that nobody did the work for you. They may misinterpret it and reject the manuscript. So you give interpretation. When I show a table of pH, I should be able to now describe that in this sample, 4 boreholes were found to be acidic, 3 boreholes were found to be within the neutral level, and 4 boreholes were found to be basic. That the boreholes that are acidic were found around my thermal area. The ones that are neutral were found where the pore live. And then so that I cannot further interrogate to say how can the people living in poor areas have the right pH, and those living in rich area, they have pH that is not okay. What could be the reason for this? And I begin to adduce reasons, and then begin to cite persons who have also adduced such reasons before. That is how to make the work rich. That is how to discuss tables and figures, so that at the end of the day, the work enters into high impact journals. Now, common elements in figures and tables. Figures and tables present information about your research data visually, so they must be clear. The use of this visual illustration is necessary so the readers can summarize, compare, and interpret large data at a glance. That's why we use tables. Now you have looked at the population of your work is on population. You have looked at the population of people living in Abuja, and then you discover that this is the percentage boys, percentage girls, percentage men, percentage women, percentage employed, percentage employed. Put this in the pie chart, and it's so simple. And label the pie chart. It will reduce the number of ways. It will reduce the tediousness in understanding your work. So you can use just a pie chart or a bar chart to show all of this. So whereas you can use graphs and figures to compare groups or patterns, tables are ideal to present large quantities of data and exact values. Several elements are needed to create your figures and tables. These elements are important to sort your data based on groups or treatment. It will be easier for the reader to see the similarities and differences among the groups when we use tables and figures. Common elements of the figures. Figure number, very important. Like I said, every figure must be numbered. Every figure must have title, and the title comes beneath the figure. There must be a figure legend. For example, a brief title, experimental statistical information on definition of symbols. Then the figure will now show the data, because the figure should be a product of data that you have obtained, and then it has to be properly labeled. The same thing about table number, table title. Your rows will be well labeled. There should be column heading. There should be data. The table shouldn't be empty table. It should have data. Then the role headings, for example, categories or group, the column headings, and then the analysis that has been done. Now, tips to write the result section. I'm approaching the last slides. Tips to write the result section. Direct the reader to the research data and explain the meaning of the data. So once you present the data, present in a result format, you explain the meaning. Avoid using the repetitive sentence structure to explain new set of data. You know, some people, at every time when they are starting, for instance, 4.1 physicochemical parameter, you start with table 3.1 shows the physicochemical parameter obtained. We go to biological parameter. Table 4 shows the biological parameter. You don't start all your subheadings with the same sentence. It will look very repetitive. You can say that the pH obtained, okay, from boreholes in Abuja. The result of the pH obtained from boreholes in Abuja is shown in table 3.1. In table 3, I mean to say. Then on the others, you can say table 4 shows. Table 5 reveals, and so you don't have to be repetitive. Now, again, write and highlight your important findings in your result. Use the same order as the subheadings of the method section. Match the result with the research questions. From the introduction, you must match the result with the research question. Your results should answer those research questions. So at the end of the day, while you are discussing this result, you must have in mind the research question, because you are discussing it in line with the research question. Now, make sure that there is no mismatch of table number or figure number in the text. You are discussing table 1 and you are presenting table 2. So at the end of the day, the whole thing is disjointed. Table 1 is about pH. You are discussing pH. But the table you are pointing us to is talking about biological parameters. So people get to do that when they are not so careful about writing their manuscript. Only present data that support the significance of your study. Data that support the significance of your study. Any other one should go into the supplementary data section. Now, tips to write your result section calendar, how to organize discussion section. It is not enough to use figures and tables in your result section. Convince your readers about the importance of your finding. It's not enough to show the pH on table 1, to show the biological parameters on table 2. You must be able to discuss it so that readers will understand the import of this your finding with respect to drinking water, with respect to drinking water from boreholes in Abuja. You need to support your result section by providing more explanation in the discussion section about what you found. The discussion section is probably the most creative section of your paper in terms of telling a story about your result. You need to tell the story because that's the only time that your ingenuity comes on board. That's the only time that your capacity and maturity in writing is brought to bear. So you must be very careful about it. You must be logical. You must write in a very succinct manner. And then you must be creative also. In this session, based on your finding, you defend the answers. You present your argument. You let us know how it contradicts previous work or how it supports previous work. And at the end of the day, you discover that the manuscript will be accepted for publication. Below is a list of questions to guide you when organizing the structure of your discussion section. What experiment did you conduct and what were the results? This will guide you. What do the results mean? What were the important results from your study? How did the result answer your research question? Did your results support your hypothesis or reject your hypothesis? What are the variables or factors that might affect your results? What were the strengths and limitations of your study? What other published work support your findings? What other published work contradict your findings? What possible factors might cause your finding different from others? You must tell us if another person has done work in a neighboring community. They did work in Kogi, in Lokoja and in Mina, and they are getting a pH that is okay. Now, Abuja is in the center, it's in between Kogi and Mina, and then you are not getting the same kind of result. You must be able to tell us, and you may say that the geological formation is different. You may tell us that because of high urbanization and industry, the Abuja groundwater may have been polluted, may have been. You don't say that it's polluted, though, may have been polluted because you are not sure. So you must adduce reasons for contrary findings. That is if your findings are different from the findings of others. Now, still on organizing the discussion section, the structure of the discussion section may be different from one paper to another, but it commonly has a beginning, a middle, and the end to the section. For each section, there is a beginning, there is a middle, there is an end. Present the contents of your section from narrow context, you move into the broader context. Remember that when we talk about introduction, you move from the broader context into the narrow context. But in result and discussion section, you move from the narrow context and then you go into the broader context. One way to organize the structure of your discussion is by dividing it into 3 parts. The beginning part, the first sentence or the first paragraph should state the importance and the new findings of your research. The first paragraph may also include answers to your research question mentioned in your introduction. The middle part should contain the interpretations of the result now to defend your answers, the strength of the study, the limitations of the study, and then update update literature that validates your finding. The end concludes the study and the significance of your research, the implication. What will happen to people when they continue to drink water with low pH? What are the implications? These come in the last paragraph. Remember that I'm talking about this paragraph is for every subsection. For every subsection you are discussing,
Sorry to interject. I know we've actually spent 15 minutes over, but I know it's very interesting, but if you could just wrap up, yeah.
Okay, let me wrap up. So organizing the discussion section, countdown. Another possible way to organize your discussion section is by using this structure that was given by Vieira 2018, discussion of important finding, comparison of your result with other published work, strength and limitations of the study, conclusion and possible implication of your study, just like I have said before. And then finally, a last option is structuring your discussion this way, according to Hoffman 2013. First paragraph, provide an interpretation based on your key findings, then support your interpretation with evidence. Middle paragraph, the middle paragraph should include the following: secondary result, limitation, unexpected findings, comparison to previous publications. And then the last paragraph should provide a summarization in bracket conclusion, along with detailing the significance and implications and potential step for the future on that particular aspect of research. Summary tips to write your discussion section: highlight the significance of your findings, mention how the study will fill the gap of knowledge, indicate the implication of your research, avoid generalizing, misinterpreting your result, drawing a conclusion with no supportive finding from your result. Once again, let me thank all distinguished ladies and gentlemen for giving me the opportunity to once again talk to us on methodology, result, and discussion. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley. Please let's give him, the electronic. And thank you so much. This was very engaging. Even though we are 83 participants, but nobody left. Everybody has been like this, very engaging presentation. So now, but the taste of the pudding is in the eating. You've told us about the methodology, results, and discussion. And of course, you gave us the tips and all. And also that I think one key word that you were using was organization, order, being logical. So everything it was very clear. But now the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So let's have the interactive session. Please, let's raise our electronic hand so that we can go through and maybe ask him, clarify some things. I'll follow the order. So Bayole, you can already start.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And good evening, everyone. Please, my own is not a question per se, it's a request. But before the request, I would like to thank Dr. Hilary for that wonderful presentation. So you have added a lot to my database up there for a professor in civil engineering, and you delve into chemistry, into statistics with a lot of detail. That's an amazing versatility, sir. Thank you very much. Now, my request is to the director of Estelle and to the organizers. If the information I have is correct, then it means a significant number of the students attending this program are PhD or MSc students of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, and of course, management information science. And the center, by requirement, expects the student research to involve developing a solution framework that take advantage of concept of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. So the research that majority of us are doing right now are in that line of algorithm development, computer software, solution framework, and so on. I want to request the director and the organizers that, if possible, if you can suggest or advise the presenters to use illustrations or examples that are, more relevant to this area. It will keep us more engaged. It will be more relevant to what we are doing. We will be able to see more application of what we are doing. For example, somebody who is developing software, I start thinking in my mind that how do I state hypothesis in the case of developing a software? So that does not mean I do not appreciate Doctor's illustration. It's your illustration, explain your point, and the points are clear. But I just wish that if their illustration in artificial intelligence or cybersecurity is more applicable to what we are doing. So it's just a request as much as it's applicable. Thank you, sir. And thank you, the director and the organizers.
Hello. Okay, would you want to respond to that, or we just make a comment on that?
Yes, let me just give a little response. Yes,
yes.
I was actually believing that people for this lecture are from different fields, even social sciences.
Yes.
And all of those. So that's why if you watch some of the examples are not even in civil engineering. I looked at, I picked some examples from biochemistry, picked some examples from engineering, picked some from statistics and all of those. But in my presentation of Saturday, I will try as much as possible to relate it to artificial intelligence, computer science, and then ICT. So be sure that you get enough examples. We have a lot of them. I wish I knew that majority of the persons are from this area. So you'll be happy with the examples I will be giving on Saturday. Thank you so much for that kind of request. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Please, moderator, can I talk? Sorry, moderator.
Yes.
Development of software. So the person that just asked that question, please, if you are developing a software for it to be able to be published in a high impact journal, such software should be able to generate data. Don't just develop a software and drop it there. It must be a software that will generate data. And immediately you generate data. The examples Prof is given with pH and this and that and that. It depends on the data you have generated with the software you develop. Please don't develop a software and drop it there. It should generate data. Whether you are working with Internet of Things or you are writing a program, the program should be able to generate data. Thank you.
Thank you. Shaibu, please, quickly. Please, let's go straight to the points. Let's not go around, just precise questions. Direct, okay. Shaibu.
Okay, thank you very much. The lecture was very, very interesting. But my question is, under which conditions can a research be carried out in the field of science without hypothesis? Because I was made to understand by someone that if it is in science, you want to design for some of us in computer, you must not necessarily have this hypothesis. But from the professor's presentations, I understand the concept of hypothesis much more than, it was explained to me. Is it possible? Is there any situation at all that you can carry out research, maybe in the design of a software or in computer or cybersecurity?
We got the question. We got the question. Thank you. Hello. We got the question. Please, Dr. Kingsley, let's take 3 questions. We've noted this one. Let's take the next one. Muhyiddin, then you answer.
It's Professor Hillary that is talking today. Please, it's my senior colleague here.
Let me answer it.
Sorry. Dr. Mr. Muhyiddin. Mr. Muhyiddin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, you don't want to take questions and then answer.
One after the other, but I'll be very brief.
Okay, because of the time. Okay, answer.
So the first question is talking about hypothesis. Now, you must not have hypothesis in your work. When we talk about hypothesis, we're just talking about null and alternative hypothesis. That is posing, transforming your statement of problem into questions. That's the hypothesis. There is no big deal about it, but it's usually used for those in the social sciences. For the sciences, we seldom use it. Okay, so instead of hypothesis, what you should be talking about should be statement of problem. So if you are developing a software, there is a problem that is informing that development of the software. Maybe there is no software before in that particular area, or the software we have in that particular area, the software packages we have in that particular area are not giving us optimal solution, or are very expensive, are not economical, or cannot be manipulated and used by people from developing countries. Hence, you are doing your own. So make a statement of problem is enough. Give the statement of problem and then move into your aim and objective and continue to develop your software. Just like Professor Bani has said, having developed the software should generate data. Once you generate data, it fits into the discussion. It fits into every other thing that we have done, because we'll now see the tables, we'll begin to see your figures, we'll begin to see the discussion, and then we'll begin to see its relationship with previous software, and then or whether it is better or not better. So I think for some of us in the sciences, the best thing is stay with statement of problem. And that is why in your thesis, If you see thesis from the sciences and engineering, we are always having statement of problem, not hypothesis. Those in accountancy, those in economics are usually the ones that make use of hypothesis. Hypothesis is not bad. You can transform hypothesis into statement of problem. You can transform statement of problem into hypothesis, whichever way. But I think that we should stay with statement of problem. And you cannot be able to give your statement of problem until you have done an exhaustive review of literature. And then to know, because you may not be, you are not the first to develop a software. Maybe you are developing a software now for computation of CGPA. We have a lot of them, a lot of algorithms, a lot of software. But now you want to give us the one that can even tell us if the student will graduate or not, if the student has a standing, the one that is more user-friendly and all of those things. So these now become the problems of the previous software that you state as your statement of problem instead of hypothesis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My question is based on the corrections that Dr. Hillary made towards the tail end of yesterday's session regarding making some sentences without references. I think I'm in a situation presently where I was privileged to be aware of historical background of a certain project on which my PhD work is going to be based. So I'm trying to give background as to what this project is all about, to see where it started and how I was able to spot the problem I'm about to solve. None of the publications around have actually talked about this particular project. So there's no way all the statements I'm making in the introduction, given the background, are my own statement based on the fact that I was actually privileged to be part of the project. So when he made that corrections yesterday, I was like, so in this case, since I'm giving background, trying to explain what this is all about, and I'm not making references, so how do I sort of bridge that kind of gap?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Muhyiddin. I think, I don't know if I'm correct with the pronunciation of your name. Now, there is nothing new under the surface of the earth. You understand me? As it was in the beginning, according to Catholics. You understand me? So the truth of the matter is that if there are no local references about the war, because it is very new, which is good, there must be global references. So begin from those global. Let it be. So for instance, you are writing history of Abuja. Somebody has not written any history about Abuja, but somebody must have written the history, published the history of North Central. And Abuja is in North Central. So begin for the history of North Central. Begin from the history of Nigeria, how Lord Lugard combined the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate in 1914. And then you talk about North Central. And then you look at what North Central produces and the problem of North Central, compared with the Northeastern region and the Northwestern region. Then you come to Abuja where you don't have enough references. So you don't begin from that Abuja. You must, from the global context, there is nothing you are doing now that somebody has not done, either on a regional scale or on a global scale. The only thing that makes your own to be relatively new is that you are not localizing it. So at that level, if you don't give much references, there wouldn't be issues. However, you should have enough global information. Let's assume now you are working on the on President Goodluck Jonathan's tenure. You understand? You are praising the tenure. Somebody may not have appraised the tenure. However, you understand me? There were presidents before him that people have worked on that you can make reference with. There are also other presidents in Africa that may have ruled at the same time with him and of the same age, and maybe of the same qualification, and maybe with the same political philosophy with PDP. So no how, there is no way. The only thing is that you have not read enough literature. And so I want you to go back now to go to Science Direct, because there are 4 platforms where you get rich literature. Don't go to Google Scholar, so that Google Scholar does not squeeze you and make you a predatory doctor. You go to Science Direct platform, or you go to Springer.com, you go to Willy Online or Taylor and Francis, and then key in this your topic. You'll be surprised that 1 million people have worked on it on a regional and global scale. You will be surprised. And I want you to do it and report back to us tomorrow. If you can also send me the topic, I will generate 40 articles before tomorrow and push across. You can send me the topic privately. 40 articles that are very fresh.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Ibrahim, grandfather.
Yeah. Good evening, Prof. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is concerning what you said with respect to methodology. Before now, I'm meant to understand in the methodology, that is where the originality, about your originality. When I mean by originality, I mean it's all about what you have done so far. So, but you made mention of you have to cite other methods in your methodology. So I am a little bit confused there, because I know in the introduction literature review, obviously you have to do a lot of citation. So when you made mention of citing in the methodology, so I'm a little bit, maybe if you can expatiate on that, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim, for that question. Very wonderful question. Now, the novelty of your work is not texted in the methodology section. Like I said, no, methodology does not come from the blues. You understand me? You cannot go and show your father where your family land begins or ends. It is your father that will show you where your family land begins and ends. You understand me? Because your father had been there or has been there before you. So now in the methodology section, you only want to go and collect data. That's the only thing that happens in the methodology section. Now, how do you go about collecting? For instance, now artificial intelligence, I've never done work there. How do I, if I want to do a research in that aspect, I have to go and study the literature and know how data is collected and then collect mine. So you must, as a matter of importance, cite references. Any methodology without references is a poorly developed manuscript and will be rejected 1 million times. So because that method you are using, you read it from somewhere. You read it from somewhere. That software you are developing, the beginning of it, the conceptualization, the theoretical framework, you read it from somewhere. That is why you even know that software is used for computing CGPA. If not, how the market woman who sells tomato, does she know anything about CGPA, let alone anything about development of software? How come you now know that software can be used to develop, to compute CGPA in an easier and friendly manner? It is because you have read other people's work and then you discover that their work has a lot of issues. So that their methodology, you adopt it with slight or no modification, and then you cite it to be able to collect your own data. Your novelty is tested in your statement of problem and then in your aim and objective. Finish, that's the only section. So we look at your statement of problem and ask what have you written that has been done before? What are you saying that has not been done, that has not informed your aim and objective? Once we see marginal novelty in your statement of problem, in your aim and objective, we move straight to look at the methodology, whether the data was collected in line with standard procedure. For data, they must follow standard procedure. There's no saying it at all. If so, that's why when NAFDAC, before NAFDAC gives you NAFDAC number for those who are into production, they will take the same standard they use in testing Eva water, they use in testing your own company water that you are bringing aboard. They cannot use another standard. So at the end of the day, they can know if it's conformed with WHO standard and their NAFDAC standard. So that is a method. So every standard organization of Nigeria has a method of testing all materials. American Society of Testing Material has a method. Even ICT now, the ICT we are in, every bank has a method of checking if fraudulent people are trying to tamper with the secrets that they have about their bank or about anything, including CBN. That's why you cannot just go to CBN now and hack it so quickly and make money, because there are checks and balances because of laid down procedures. So everything in this life is procedural. Even eating food, you cut it with your hand and you put it into your mouth. That is the procedure. You cannot cut the food and put it into your ear. Once you put it into your ear, you know that you are doing something that is strange. It's not novel, it's only strange and bad.
Thank you, Dr. Owama. So we have a question by Sadiq. Suppose I wish to write a review paper on conflict of results in literature. How does all that have been said about organizational structure, title, abstract, introduction, materials and method, results and discussion, I mean, there's something that is not clear here, of an original research paper applied to the review paper? Okay. Yes. He listed a lot of things, and then how does it apply to the review paper?
Yes, every standard review paper is original in itself. The most important thing, what is the purpose? It is the purpose that informs the kind of originality we look for. If it's an original data, original research, we are looking for what we want to add to the body of knowledge. But if it is review, we are looking for your ability to gather information that is scattered here and there about a particular research and put it then together so that you can help researchers do proper literature review. That is novelty. So you can state that so long as the authors know, no one has done a literature review on conflict resolution in Nigeria. That's the novelty. When we talk about this novelty, some of us think that it is something very big. that as far as the authors are concerned, as far as the authors know, no one has done a research on conflict resolution in Nigeria. Hence this review. And it will go into Elsevier, going into Springer. So it is the kind of manuscript you are writing that determines how you are going to state your novelty. You are going to make your novelty statement. So review papers are wonderful, but they are the hardest. So if you are a young researcher, please don't go into them because it will take you so many years to get.
Maybe researchers don't go into review paper.
Don't go here until you start supervising PhD students. You can now tell them that they should go and.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Wama. Please, hello. Please, we want to have some hands-on. Sorry. We want to have some hands-on. So if you can give them some practical guide and then so that they will be able to submit. Meanwhile, we are aware that there were some submissions that were made yesterday. Yes. I don't know whether we'll have time to go through it or you just give them the practical.
Yes, I will tomorrow. I will start tomorrow. You know, today we had we just went on strike today. So we're having our ASU delegation and I couldn't review those papers.
Okay, so give them something to practice.
Yes, the assignment I'm going to give now, the assignment I'm going to give is your paper that they have been rejecting since, send it to me. That has result and discussion and methodology. Let me look at it. You understand me? Without goggles. Okay, and then come up with some reasons why they have been rejected. If you have a new paper you are writing, you have an old one that they have been rejecting, tossing you up and down, I will assist you to publish it. So send it to me. Tomorrow when we start, I will show the flaws in the paper and then tell you what to do again to make it acceptable. So
thank you, sir. You've heard it. This is your chance. Please type your email again. Many of the participants here were not here on the first day. So please type your email
in the chat. Let me put my email in the chat section
so that you can send your any requests or any clarification you need. But precisely what he's saying is papers that you've not been able to submit anywhere. So this is your chance to submit it. I think Dr. Kingsley was going to make a comment, right?
I wanted to react to that question because I was about answering the question on the chat where he asked about if you are writing a review paper. You know, in a review paper, the standard, that's what Prof was saying, it took me time to go into review. I think last year I did some critical review in KU1 journal to verse 5 to 10. And some of them are under review. He was trying to ask where, you know, if you see a review paper, you might not see material and method. You have title, you have abstract, you have introduction, you will not see result and discussion. He's a bit confused. How can I now merge this thing? You will not see a review paper that will tell you material and method, result, discussion. A review paper will follow, you have abstract, that is true. You have your introduction, you have your title, your abstract, your keyword, normal things will come. But when it now comes to the method, you don't put method. You now have other sections depending on the outline of the particular work you are doing. You are working on, let me say, ICT, information technology as it affects telecommunication. You now begin to look at those keywords. You pick those keywords, you use them to form subtopic. And at the end of all these subtopics, what you also have that will go along with a normal research paper is your conclusion and recommendation. I think those 2 points, material and method, discussion and method, might not be specific in a review paper, but the key word you want to work on in your review paper, you now use that one as a basis to actually form your material. You might not say material and method, but those are now your material and method, things you work on to have your conclusion and discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, let me add.
Thank you so much. We have We have the dean of the
I wanted to add to what Prof has just said also, but let's go on. Okay.
Yes, but we have the dean raising his hands. He wants to contribute to this discussion. Professor Mafiana, please, you're welcome to give your comments.
No, please just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. All right. So, Dr. Owama.
Yes. Just like Professor Kingsley has said, the review paper may not necessarily have materials and methods, but if you insist on having materials and method, you can let them know that they
Hello.
material, the material for from whatever. So you just in the materials and methods section, you cannot tell them where you got your materials from that you are using for this review. And then you can also explain how you analyzed this information for this material. Because when you look at the review paper, like you are working on impact of ICT on economy, you will see that
hello.
That a lot of findings have been made. And so you could have it, but it is not necessary, just like Prof has said. But your introduction is sacrosanct, your abstract is sacrosanct, the conclusion is sacrosanct. But if you want materials and method, because actually in review, there are materials and method. The materials are the published papers that you are using to do your review. You can also let them know that you downloaded materials from Scopus between 2010 and 2020, a 10-year period on works published on ICT, on the effect of ICT on economic development. And then that you synthesize all of this and then analyze it and then use pie chart and bar chart to do whatever that you are doing. But it is not necessary, it is not compulsory that you have materials and method. But let me tell us something. Another way of escaping all of this is when you want to write a review paper, download the review papers in that regard. That's what I've said before. You don't start from the blues. If you want to write a review paper on impact of ICT on economy, go to Science Direct and type impact of ICT on economy. It will pop up a lot of paper on review. Download them, read them, and structure your work according to their own structure, and you will get it published. So many times.
Thank you so much for.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the tips, because you've given a lot of tips on the methodology, results, and discussion. However, are they clear about what you want them to do? Is it just to submit the rejected papers, or is there any other thing? For those that don't have rejected, what would they do?
This is what I want us to do. I believe everyone here has either a paper that has been rejected or a paper that you have published, but you couldn't publish it in a high impact journal. Maybe you are unaware, or you're already working on a new paper. I want the paper to be sent to me. The instruction is that the paper should have title, your name, should have abstract, should have introduction, should have materials and method. The only thing that shouldn't be there is conclusion, which we have not taught. But it should have everything we have taught from the beginning to result and discussion. Send it across. I will do a thorough review and make online comments on it, display it tomorrow. We will analyze it paragraph by paragraph and data for data. So at the end of the day, we will know the flaws, because when you write, the best way to learn is to write and then your work being criticized. That's actually the best way. So send me what you have written. Let me do a critique, and then all of us will look at the result of my critique tomorrow.
It can be your MSc thesis or PhD thesis. If you have written the materials and methods and discussions, you can send it across.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Onwuama, and all the other presenters that have supported you today. We thank you so much. I think the director is here. Prof.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your audio is hazy. Hello, Prof. All right. Okay. Oh, so sorry. Hello, Prof. Sorry, we can't make out. I think the audio has
maybe Professor Ofule will help us.
She's saying something about, Prof, please, can you type on the chat? We can't make out what you're saying.
Hello.
Yes. It's the audio was not clear.
Can you hear me?
No. Type in the chat, please. We can't make out. It's getting better. Yes.
My audio is not clear, but
it's okay now. Okay. Hello. You can type what you want us to, because we're not making out what you're saying.
We cannot hear you.
Sorry?
Hey, Professor Fule will help us now.
No. The director was trying to say something, and I just wanted to make her what she's okay. So
maybe she will log in again so that she might get a better notification. She has just.
I think she was trying to thank Dr. Hilary for the presentation. I heard her talking to Dr. Hilary, but she's out now. But you can see that there were issues with the network. So I want to thank all the presenters, and not just the presenters, all the coordinators, the research coordinator, the dean, PG School, and most importantly, the students, because they are the main targets for this. And then you've heard what the presenter, Dr. Hilary, has told you to please send him your work. So this is your chance. So all the high impact journal, I mean, if we don't get it this time, then we'll have ourselves to blame. But I can assure you that if we put into practice what they've provided, all the tips that he has given, then we'll be able to make it to the high impact journal. So please, his email is here. So you can send your work to him. So on behalf of the director, because she's having issues, she's still not back here, I want to thank all of us for the active engagement, and the main presenter, Dr. Onwuama, for the brilliant and engaging presentation. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that we can all attest to the fact that most of us, okay, she's back. She's back. Hello, Prof. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yes, I was just... Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I was thanking them on your behalf. Because we're not hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can just continue. The network is poor.
Okay. No. So we were about to just conclude, because I've thanked everyone for their participation. And then, so we look forward to the submission. Dr. Onwuama is open to help all of us improve. So thank you so much and have a good night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please,
Thank
may
you
I
very
confirm?
much.
Please, may I confirm what submission are we talking about? The network was poor.
We'll be happy to have the.
Dr. Onwuama requested that if you have any article that you're finding difficult to work on, that you should just present your title, introduction, all that we've done, the review, then the materials and methods and discussion, not to add conclusion. He has typed his email on the chat, so you can just, Thank you, good night.
Okay. All right,
Good
so
night,
we can send you our methodology. Then we'll
The link will be appreciated, please. The links of the record will be appreciated, please.
It will be sent to all the participants. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Have a lovely night.